My name is Prasthut.
Hi there. How you doing?
Uh,
Where on the planet are you
I'm
calling?
fine. India.
Fantastic. Well, then it's I think it's good morning, or is it good afternoon, or is it good evening?
Good night.
It's good night. We'll say
It's cor-
we'll say that for after the call.
so. I think we just both of us right now. Is anybody else joining in?
This is an open call, so there'll be folks that'll pop in and pop out.
Okay.
So
So, I'm currently like, what's this about? Like, uh, could you give a brief outlook?
it's an informal onboarding call,
Okay.
just if you have outstanding your first milestone. There's a lot of
Okay.
data to access. There's a lot of people to coordinate with. So if you have any outstanding questions and you actually want to talk to someone, I throw these
Okay.
out there and just to help integrate, acclimate. We've had a lot of folks that are fairly new to not just the project but the crowd
Yeah.
in general,
Yeah.
and so
Okay. Yeah.
so
Okay.
it's here to
So,
provide any tips or guidance or whatever you may need to help you to weather the storm and get into the vibe.
Okay, I get the idea of the crowd research and the perspective about it, but it essentially seems like a GSOC project where you contribute to the development phase. So how do you differentiate yourself from the other GitHub projects being happening around? I mean, I just didn't get the gist. How do you like? How does a non-developer contribute to this? Though I'm a developer, how does a non-developer contribute to this project?
Yeah, I mean the contribution is all it's really shaped by what you want to get out of it. To be honest with you, not you
Okay.
know, let's flip the proposition a little bit because at the end of the day, this is one of those projects where you'll get out what you put in. And so we get into that. It's like set aside some time. This is a marathon. Okay? This is a very long project, and really the cool, sexy things happen week 8, 9, 10. It's going to happen towards the beginning end of this of the engagement. So pace yourself, but give yourself some realistic time to do the milestones, do the research, and the like. That way you can get a lot out of this. What non-developers can get out of this? A ton. One, they can learn to code. I know depending on their computational acumen and how much math they have, some people can jump in doing some of the front end stuff, JavaScript. I know we're going to need some Python developers for the machine learning, doing some basic scripting. So that's one angle. The other is this is a crowd managing a crowd. So the operation, op-gov, the organizational dynamics of the crowd and of crowd research. Those are some opportunities areas where non-technologists can have a say and start playing a role in research and the like. Hey guys, I'm Trina. Hope you all doing well. Um, People kind of pop in and out. Periodically, I'll stop and welcome folks. This is an informal onboarding conversation. Um, this is an opportunity. There's a lot of stuff going on. You got milestones, you got content you need to track down, you have rules and all this stuff you need to figure out. So I've been hosting these hangouts primarily because I like the Google Hangout. It's my personal preference, but it's a way in which you can connect, um, talk to someone, and get either some guidance or voice some concerns or get whatever you need to help with your integration and acclimation into the project. Okay, so with this kind of open door, people coming in and out. If best suited if you guys help you guys out.
Could you, did you, I just dropped out of the call. Could you give me the answer to the previous?
Hold on a second. I can barely hear you. I'm just picking on over a. Okay, so fire away, my friends. What kind of questions do I have?
Hello.
Hi. Who's?
Hi. Hi, Prashant here. I just dropped out of this call.
Yeah.
So do you answer the previous question that I have?
Okay. Yeah. So here's the deal. If you're a non-technologist, like I said, either learn a skill,
Mhm.
um, you know, and learn some scripting, some Python, depending on some of your math background, your general acumen, you can pick that up.
Mhm.
On the other side of the fence, from the operations, OpGov, organizational, this is a crowd, managing a crowd. So there's a lot of opportunity to either research crowd dynamics, run some field experiments on reputation or prototyping. There's a lot of things that you can do. Um, you just need to ask, start asking questions, start doing some preliminary research. Um, again, you're going to get out of this whatever you put into it. So if you are networked with a bunch of non-technologists that are having some challenges, have them DM me, and we can guide them through and help them find spots. There's plenty of work to do, plenty of learning to be done.
Okay. So I also had this question that we have this amazing community making this project come to life, but why did we choose this basic idea of the crowd sourcing of events, like uh, I mean mechanical Turk or something like that offers just like a $0.1 or $0.2 for your project. So why this problem?
Well, so there's a couple things. The original cohort was designed almost as a reaction to MTurk. MTurk does some good things, but as the same at the same time, not very respectful of its workers. It's a very asymmetrical platform. Workers didn't have a voice, or they have very little recourse. What they do have is actually offline. Turk Opticon is an extraordinary solution to this problem. Bad communication, poor trust, ill-crafted hits, etc., etc. So this project was designed to, hey, crowdsourcing is pretty cool. It is part of the new way of doing work. How can we do it
Hmm.
better? How can we improve upon things? And as such, there's a lot of research questions. So in order for us to address that, we built Demo. Demo is and will be a fully functional crowdsourcing tool. And as we run work through there, we can start to need find both on the worker and the requester side to create a harmonious work environment that the crowd kind of integrate. Okay. I know there was a couple questions that came up that were posted through. They were focused on is the research of crowdsourcing. Um, but the research agenda is going to come from us. We're the ones that are going to set the agenda. So, what is of interest? What are some of the things you all are interested in? Is it reputation systems? Is it prototyping? Um, is it the way the crowd functions? Does it function as democracy, or does it function as an oligarchy? What are the best organizational functionality within a crowd? Should it be, managed with a leadership board, or should we have guilds? There is just tons of stuff to assess and evaluate and to research. We're very fortunate that Michael Bernstein is, he's one of the godfathers of this space. And as such, he has a lot of insight into this. He is a very well and accomplished researcher as well. So he's able to pass down some of the tricks of the trade. And these tricks have allowed us to be very competitive in writing papers. So We had a WIST paper that was accepted. We had a Chi paper that eventually that's now part of that white paper that you all are reading. That made it to a final round. We've done. We are finalists for a Knight Foundation Award. So. So this isn't necessarily research just for the sake of research. There are some very beneficial outcomes that we're looking to focus on, and there's another WISC conference, and then there's a CSCW conference later this year that I think we want to focus on as being contributors. In fact, I got a little long-winded, but again, it really strikes to the concept of you're going to get out of this what you put into it. Right.
Okay. So,
yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, as like the development and the research goes like in synchronous, right? So, but how does like if I'm developing a feature for let's say demo, how does it relate to my name being on a paper or as a co-author?
Yeah, and this is now where you have to start thinking through your role here. There are some folks that are just going to want to develop. They're going to want to be part of the transactional team that does demo. The work that you do, though, that you contribute to that, it will have an impact. So you will end up on the paper. It's a matter of where in the pecking order. So it's influence, it's contribution, it's bringing some ideas and then managing it through the ideation process, being collaborative, being able to do some field work, run some research. It's as much what you learn as what you contribute as well. So I think just being an active, interested, and engaged part of the crowd is a good baseline for future participation. That being said, all about pacing yourself. It's a very long project. As you're getting comfortable and used to the dynamics of a very distributed crowd, we are everywhere. Build in some time into your week now, folks. Okay, we have a milestone meeting on Monday. We do things on Sunday, and then you need some researching hangout time during the course of the week. So build that into your life now. Don't see it as being part of your foundation. Okay, and as it's part of your regular tempo, then it's easier to add more to it as we get into your paper time, or we're moving towards a release, or there's a feature that's going to come out or whatnot. I just mentioned that because it's easy to start Slack watching, and just get sucked into it. It's like, because it's on 24. Wow, I don't want to miss anything. Slack is for short attention span theater. 5 minutes, then the idea circles through. Okay. If you're interested in some ideas, Slack has in the upper right some keyword searching. You can plug in a word, and then you'll see that as that comes up again in subsequent other posts, you can either then go back and engage with them later on, or do a hangout and say, hey, I saw you all were interested in this. Awesome. Boom, let's talk. So getting comfortable with some of the tools that we have, warehousing or stashing your ideas up on a wiki is a very good idea. It's a habit you need to get into, but it then serves kind of as a notebook or a sketchbook. So because you may have an idea now that it's not ready. The crowd isn't ready for it. We're not at that part of the project, but it's still a darn idea. People will see it, hey, they'll add to it. You encourage people, and then by the time the idea is ready, well, not only have you discussed it, but other people have also discussed it. And so the idea can kind of mature. You have this ideation process where you can see some clustering, and then when the crowd or the project is ready for it, boom, you're already there a little further along. Okay. So those are just some tips. I've been here since the first cohort, so this is cycle number 3. So I'm just making some of these suggestions just because you can learn from my pain. I wasn't quick to using the wiki, and so there was ideas that were just kind of flash in the pan, like, yeah, you lose an idea. Like, we had that idea a couple months ago, and so you learn from some of those mistakes. So that's just what I want to share with you, just from a long-winded perspective.
Is there space for other questions?
Absolutely. Who's talking, my friend?
I'm Alessandro Verletti De Palo from Italy. You see me in the right corner, I guess. Hello. Thanks for to make questions. The first question for me, I just wrote it, and it's what is the main purpose of all the crowd research?
Yeah.
The second, if you want to mix them up, is the crowd free to choose its main aim, or we should follow the Stanford's one? And the third is that I've seen some milestones. Is there a simple page with all the milestones and complete path to the accomplishment of the main goal?
Okay.
So, can you see those written if you want a reference?
I think I can remember. I'll take the first two and kind of combine them together. The objective of crowd research in this forum is, it's kind of changed a little bit, but it's still essentially the same. The idea is to create a forum for, I don't want
A forum for?
say amateur, but maybe a forum for research and for researchers who are interested in crowd research. Okay. We have a lot of folks in the cohort that are not accomplished researchers, but bring a real nice skill set, have a lot of different things, just smart, interested, and curious kind of folks. They tend to make very good researchers. So in this forum, there's an opportunity for them and us. I count myself as being one of those novice researchers that have learned a lot in this process. An opportunity to start looking at some of the prescient questions within crowdsourcing, reputation systems, prototyping, some of the organizational dynamics. Really an opportunity to engage some of the bleeding edge technological, organizational, and philosophical questions within the space. And so by having this distributed crowd, we can almost be what we become. I think there's some opportunities for us from a meta perspective to research how a crowd does what a crowd does. So within that, that's a very generic kind of objective. There can be some very individual objectives as well. I think the best objectives are the ones that guide us towards writing a paper. And so that's where having WIST and having the CSCW conference not that far off the horizon are good galvanizers, so to speak. So at that point, you can, let's identify a problem, and then, let's put in place a scenario to investigate it or do some field work, and then generate some results, and then write a paper on it. That's a very simple sequence, but really, the end of the day, the objectives of the individuals within the crowd are to generate academic paper. Final piece is milestones. Milestones are very important. They are a great research. And so, having gone through a couple of them, you see that there is much to help you frame your mental model, give you some exposure to being a worker and being a requester if you haven't already done so. So it gives you some insight, like from a UX, UI perspective, like, what's the story that's being told here? How, what is the interface like? So we can learn from what some of the other folks are doing and do it better in our space. From a developer, how clunky and how chunky is it? What's the latency? You can start getting a sense of how we can do things better, but it also exposes you to just the general mechanisms of the process. So the first 2 or 3 milestones are designed to real heady immersion into crowd research. They are very critical, and you will find that when you're doing milestone 8, 9, or 10, or we're doing research, that we will refer back to these milestones. They just don't fade away. You'll find that a lot of the themes that are introduced now are themes that we will investigate later on. So there's definitive madness to the milestone creation. So and as far as a list, let me go take a look on the homepage. The wiki homepage should have or has the list of the current milestone. I'm not sure we have cast how far out we've gone. There will be 15 or 16 milestones. I think Bernstein, we can probably draw upon old ones, but there may be some new ones that come in different themes. But again, they're all tied together to help with your acclimation into the space and to springboard you into research.
Okay, so let me try to summarize. It seems like milestones serve as an education and context orientation for understanding the crowd research.
Good summary. Yes.
The main aim is to foster crowd research and interest in crowd research, also by other institutions and by the students themselves or academics themselves.
Yeah, correct.
And, you can have a personal aim inside this crowd research project if it produces a publication about a subject connected with the crowd research.
Well, yes and no. I think at the end of the day, as a researcher, having a publication is kind of validation. There will be some heady concepts that I think will just be moved the needle on that may not have matured enough to write about. But I think at the end of the day, when you talk to Bernstein and you hear the way he structures kind of the research, a lot of rapid prototyping. Let's tackle problems that we can validate, that we can actually validate it's a problem and then execute a solution. So if we're looking at the big whale, we'll take bits and bytes. And I think then the sum total of that, we will have digested the whale. And so a couple more cohorts, there's still some things we haven't touched upon, but we just haven't matured as a group yet to tackle some of them. But so I don't want to dissuade you. It's just for paper writing. There will be, I think, some research that will just move the needle that we'll be able to capitalize on either the next cohort or subsequent cohorts.
So mainly you can start your project and then it would be good if you produce a publication, but it's also good if you start the project because anybody else can take your path and finish it off, or I mean, it can flow in the crowd sense.
Yeah, I mean, collaboration and attribution, we're in a different world here. I think we use PageRank right now as a way to kind of assess and evaluate contribution and influence when it comes to organizing where you sit on a paper. But right now, the rule is that if you make a contribution in the first cohort, but you have spun off, you're just not around, and that information or that contribution doesn't get materialized until a paper written 18 months later. If you're not part of the cohort, you won't be on the author list, as it stands right now.
Can you repeat this? Sorry.
Yeah. So one of the things we're working on is right now the best practice is that for you to be on the author list of a paper, you need to be an active member of the crowd. at the time of publication.
I can understand. So the good practice now is that I just couldn't hear you.
You need to be at the time of publication. So when, let's just say we're submitting a WIST paper tomorrow, if you have contributed but you are not active with the crowd right now, you will not be on the list. You need to be an active and interested and engaged member of the crowd at the time of publication to be on the author list.
All right. This is if you join a project that is not the one that is yours, let's say. Like we were talking before about your personal aim in the research. So if you drive a group or if you pursue a certain kind of investigation, of course the publication will have your name because you're just pushing it up.
Right.
But if you don't and you follow some parts or some other projects, only if you are active, effectively active, sorry,
Yeah.
you will have your name in the publication.
Yeah, you need to be a participant.
Okay, that sounds quite fair. I mean,
it does. So you start realizing, and then some of the issues we've had though is leveling.
Yeah.
Is PageRank the best way to assess influence and contribution? I think it's a fascinating question, and I think it is certainly I think a meta question that.
Okay. Let me just ask you the last question is maybe you just answered me before, tried to answer. So I guess I mean I can answer myself actually. The third question was, I've seen some milestones. Is there a simple page with all the milestones and complete path to accomplishment of the main goal of the crowd research? But as you described it, it seems like the crowd research may produce crowd research projects and objectives and targets as a continuous project. So there is a general aim, but not a goal that has a strict path to follow.
Yeah.
All right. That's very good for me.
Excellent. So what I can do though is, if you don't already have it, there is the link to the HCI Crowd Research Wiki. Do you have that? Do you have that link, Alessandro?
Yes, I'm reading it.
Okay, I think that's a good spot. The path for this cohort may not be as defined, just because I think we want to have a little bit of flexibility. If you go to the archive, you will see what was accomplished in cohort 1, cohort 2. I think cohort 1 is probably a good indicator of how things rolled out, how it spun, and it'll give you a little bit of insight as to what to anticipate, what's coming up.
Okay, sorry, I have to unmute every time because I want to not to make noise. Thank you. I'm quite happy.
Great.
So I guess I'll leave space for other questions, and I thank you very much. It was very clear. It is very clear now. Thanks.
You are very welcome. And again, any questions, just reach on out. You can reach on out to me. Durham helps with technical questions. Allison, she's at A Cassette, is dealing with machine learning. Reach on out to Del Rukshi and or Angela if you are a UI UX person. You can also reach out to Bernstein. Okay, he is obviously really busy right now, but at the end of the day, he will get back to you. Save it for big questions, though. I think he's a good. Him and Rajan will be good springboards or sounding boards to help with any research questions you have or identifying problems or those sorts of things. They make themselves very available. My caveat to you is, though, have a your idea formed a little bit. Okay, they're good with spitballing, but they're big brain dudes. Okay, bring your A game. You'll get the most out of them if you've given it some basic thought, so you guys can share the mental model with them. Okay, um, so that being said, any more questions? I know I've been looking on Slack, and folks are very interested in forming teams. I just want to give some suggestions on that. The first cohort, we were structured around teams. That was the only way you could join the first group, and it was awesome. It was for me. That was my first exposure to crowd research and actually functioning in the crowd, and it was very helpful to. So it was a good opportunity to get exposure to the technologists and folks that wanted to do organizational stuff that were in different parts of the world. So there is some utility to creating a team if you have some designs along that. The reason I mention that is that if you're too isolated, you may not get the full impact of what the crowd's all about. Okay, so. Somebody just joined. Can you mute, please? Viniac, I think that might be you, my friend. There is, because we're distributed, it could be easy to get isolated. So just be aware of that as you're building in some time into your week. Work on building a community. You may not always. You don't necessarily need to align to folks that do your thing, like machine learning folks. It's okay for you to hang out with the Octagon guys. Okay, really, there's no problem. I think that cross-pollination is pretty awesome to creating some very integrated solutions, because it's very rare you have just a technical problem and a technical solution, or a non-technical problem and a non-technical solution. We have found that they're always integrated. So as you see problems and solutions, reach on out. Create some communities, create some teams, spitball with people. It's a great ideation process. There's a lot of big brain folks here, so it helps to be humble. All of a sudden you think you know something, and someone swoops in. It's like, oh man, they just starched my shorts. It happens, but as long as you're able to take it and learn from it, this can be a very stimulating environment. If you get caught up in the competition, I'm gonna say it's not culturally, it's not the best. You'll find yourself burned out. So it's all about gratitude, not about attitude. That's me just talking here. You guys have questions? There's still a lot of folks here.
What are the main... Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
What are the main technologies we need to focus on to get through the project?
Well, I think that's gonna. What's your specialty? Are you a front end? You a database? You machine learning?
Front end and database.
Front end and database?
Yes.
Have you reached on out to Durham at all? Have you talked to any of the research engineering folks?
No.
Okay. So that would that would be your first step. Durham is one of the technical leads here. He's been around forever. He's the RA out at Stanford. Definitely reach on out to him, because then you guys can geek out. You can share with him your skill set and your leveling, and then he can provide a little bit of tertiary guidance on, okay, yeah, we need that. Here's where to go. Or maybe you want to focus on this. So he can give you some of the transactional guidance to help answer that question. Allison is on the call. She is also one of our longstanding cohort members. She is she's going to be leading up machine learning, so she can answer your technical question in that forum. Al, I'm going to lob the question on over to you.
Right now, what Durham has asked is that we really get folks familiar first with Django, AngularJS, and PostgreSQL. So those are the things that you're really going to need to know platform right now.
All right, how'd that sound, guys? Thanks, Al. Anyone else? There's no stupid questions, only stupid answers on my part. Mute. You're on. Just remember, everyone's on mute, so if you can unmute yourself before you ask a question, that'll help. That way I can hear.
Hi, could I ask one more?
Of course you can.
Yeah, so what would be the best possible way to keep a level-headed between research and development in this project?
What's the best way to...
Like, there are two parts right now I could think of. Either you try the development phase, or either you go into the research phase. So that
Yeah.
way.
Well, here's, if you're a technologist, and you're really fascinated by some of the processes, some of the coding that goes into building a platform, some of both the features as well as the foundational piece, this is going to be a very healthy coding environment. So throw yourself into it. This is, if you see it as a learning opportunity, you're just going to sharpen those skills and acquire new ones. As you're doing all this, however, in parallel, think about either the ideas or the concerns that you're already bringing to the table, or research ideas that are popping up as you're talking to people, you're engaged, you're doing milestones. You're like, wait, what about this? Ask, and then you will find that a lot of things are going to happen in parallel. You're going to have, I think, a healthy mental model on parallel processing. Okay, being able to do technologies and then research stuff side by side. So if you have research questions, agendas, or ideas, post them. Either DM, like I said, Allison or Durham or Rajan, or if you have technicals, you have a specific technical question in UI UX, reach on out to Del Rucci or Angela. There's some folks out there that can help kind of nurture and mature that little kernel of an idea. So reach on out. Crowd's here for. Again, it's all about collaboration. Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No?
I'm just going to drop in here. Even if you're on the technical side and the development side, the milestone for this week specifically is really important if you can find the time to do it. The reason being, what we do in the first couple of weeks was specifically designed to be foundational for everyone to really understand the user need of what we're building for. So to really spend some time getting deep into crowdsourcing, reading those papers, trying to get in and utilize the platform, it's going to inform everything you do throughout the project. So, obviously definitely get the environment set up, get that working, but at the minimum, just read the mandatory papers and explore the experience of some of those types of crowdsourcing platforms.
Good advice, Miss Allison. Thank you. It's a marathon. So to kind of Allison's point, there's a lot of things you need to do. There's a lot of stuff happening. You're not going to hit a home run on your first day. It's going to be a cumulative effect, and you'll have that aha moment when you have it. But it'll be after you've done a couple milestones. It'll start to click. As you joined, you can ask questions. Fire away, gentlemen. No? I'm going to keep the channel open for the rest of the hours.
Okay, I have one question.
All right.
Yeah, so while going through the forums, going through Slack, I can see there are people who are very good technically at all of the things. Like we have backend developers who are very good. We have ML researchers who are talking about deep learning. So I'm not a newbie, but I'm not as advanced as they are. So I was wondering, how can I contribute to the project?
You can contribute by being yourself, asking all the questions that you need to ask. The pedigree and the profile of people that you're seeing, right? You're bringing your own particular brand. You're bringing your own skill set. So just throw yourself out there. Again, as long as you're humble and you're not intimidated by folks, you don't necessarily know what those folks' objectives are or what they're trying to get out of this. What you do know is what you want to bring and what you want to get out of it. So stay true to yourself in those regards, and you will, as you're doing milestones, you're going to find your place in the crowd. So just, to be honest, just throw yourself out there. Yeah, you'll probably ask some questions, and some will come back a little brusky like. But that happens to all of us. It's going to happen in any sort of environment. 99% of the time, though, you will get a helping hand. You'll get a good response. Someone's out there to encourage and nurture you, put you in the right direction, and just help you out. Okay? So, be true to yourself. Know what you want to get out of this. And if you don't, you will find, as you're going through the milestones, as Allison mentioned, you'll get a better handle on what this is all about and then what you can get out of it. I think that'll help you decide or influence what you can contribute. Because it's a crowd. You just don't know. You have all these little bits and bobs that combine. A quilt and a tapestry is made of individual threads. You take that one thread out, all of a sudden that tapestry could fall apart. So in this crowd and in this collective, don't be shy, because you just never know if that one little piece of information you're adding is the critical piece, the tipping moment.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I mean, in a lot of ways, it's like any open source project, right? There's always going to be, small things where you can start contributing. There might be, little fixes that we need for smaller pull requests, and a lot of that will come in time. But the best thing you can do now is, if you're not familiar with any of the technologies, the 4 main technologies that have been mentioned, just go to Code Academy, get yourself feed some tutorials, and fork the code. Really, I mean, where you can just play with things and see what happens and start to understand how different things relate. You certainly don't want to push that sandbox, but create a place for you to just play around and get familiar with what's in there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks.
Any more questions? Okay. Again, we're going to keep the channel open until 10 o'clock just to give everyone that that opportunity. Yeah, so keep feeling free. Okay, Al, can you see me?
I can see you.
Yeah, can you hold? Can you manage the crowd for a second? I gotta.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. No problem. Anybody else? Any questions? Any team concerns? No. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself? You can do that too. In that case, I'll just talk about okay, here we got a question. It says, it's necessary to have a team for the rest of the project. It's a really great question. So, as Trigva mentioned, in the first cohort, you could only join as a team. In the second cohort, folks joined as individuals. Honestly, what we found is that the teams over time develop a little more organically based on area of interest. So for example, we'll get to a time when we need to redesign a page, or there's a different task for the week, and folks will kind of coalesce around those. For right now, if you are doing your milestone, if you want to find some people to put your view the experience of being in the crowd and reading through those research papers, by all means. But if it's just you, then it's okay to go ahead and do those milestones. Oh, you can hear me. All right. I am not muted. Can anybody hear me right now?
Yes, I can.
You can? Okay.
Yes.
Let me see.
I can.
Okay, I guess some folks, oh no. All right, we've got some folks that can't hear. Let me just let them know this is being recorded and you can view later on YouTube. Anything missed? So you don't need a team right now, but it will be helpful sort of for your personal experience of being involved in the project to have 1 or 2 people or 3 people that you work with. If you don't have anyone right now and you need help connecting with someone, you can drive your onboarding channel and ask them to help you connect with 1 or 2 people. One of the things we found, and Trigva probably mentioned earlier, is that diverse teams, either culturally, geographically, skill-wise, often come up with some of the most interesting insights, but that's certainly not a requirement. So, you know, if you need help finding a team, definitely let your onboarding leader know, and we can connect you with some people if posting in the introduction channel isn't working for you. But you don't need a team for the rest of the project because the teams are going to grow and change based on task. That's a very long answer to a very short question. Oh, no problem. Anyone else? Does anybody have any feedback on how things are going so far? Are you getting enough information? Too much information?
I had one more question. With respect to the paper, the research papers, how are the authors chosen? Are they with respect to their technical contributions, or are the authors the people who have come up with unique ideas to help with the project? Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, so one of the things that's interesting about crowd research that's a little bit different than, you know, what we understand from traditional academic is, you know, we're a combination of, you know, contribution and influence. What's interesting is that most of the ideas that have come to the fore, our greatest research contributions, are often, it's almost like they sort of rise out as opposed to coming from one person necessarily. Obviously, sometimes there's somebody who says it first, but there isn't anything that's in any of the papers we've written that has ever come solely from one person. So which is great from creating something cool, but challenging sometimes in a more traditional ranking of authors in an academic paper. If you have 3 person help run the experiment, pretty obvious. You know, with us, where everything is so intertwined, it's a little more challenging. So we've used a couple of different methods, but basically we use sort of a page ranking. The last way that we did it was that each person was given 100 points that they could deliver out to anyone who was on the author list. And there's a minimum threshold to be included in the list. I think it was only a couple of points that you needed to receive. And so then what we do is we would take all of those points and votes and run it through a page ranking system. So if you had folks who were giving a lot of points just to each other, that was sort of mitigated or managed so that you didn't have any inflation, and that the folks who got points from the most diverse number of people had the most influence, etc. So